My name is Christina Horsford. I'm a broker and realtor with Tate Realtors located in Pittsboro, North Carolina, just a few miles south of Chapel Hill. I'd like to welcome you from Dream to Doorstep today, a first-time home buyer guide. In this webinar, we'll learn the best steps you can take to prepare from dream to doorstep. My goal today is to help you understand what it takes to be a first-time home buyer. And keep in mind, people are buying and selling homes every single day of the year. Even if the economy is slow, no matter our personal circumstances, there are homes and home sales and purchases being made. My goal is to help position you to the best of my ability. So, with no further ado, let's get started. I'll start by asking a few basic preliminary questions just to get you thinking about what we're going to discuss today. So, my first question is, where are you in your home buying journey? Is this just a thought, or have you given it considerable thought and consideration over the past several days, weeks, or months? My second question is, what is your biggest concern about buying a home right now? Are you worried about the state of the economy, your personal economy, your finances? How do you begin the search? What should you be asking? My third question is, have you spoken with a lender or mortgage professional yet? If you don't have the ability to buy your home using cash, it's most likely that you'll need a mortgage and a relationship with a lender. We'll talk about that shortly. And last, what type of property are you most interested in? Is it a single family home, a duplex, a triplex, a quadplex? Are you interested in living in a condominium or a townhome? Each of these homes and home types are actually different. And it's good to start thinking about what might meet your needs. There are pros and cons to all different types of home types. So, with no further ado, let's get started with today's presentation. So, you know a little bit about me, and at some point, I'd love to know a little bit more about you. So, feel free to reach out. I'll share my contact information throughout the presentation and most certainly at the end. And I even have a little special bonus for you. There'll be 4 sections to today's presentation. In the first section, we'll talk about what it takes to get prepared. In the second section, we'll talk about how you actually go about house hunting, that's fun, and choosing the right home. In the third section, we'll talk about making an offer and what happens next. And last, in step 4, we'll talk about final steps to closing. So let's get started. Getting prepared. I'll give you some do's and don'ts for each section. Now keep in mind, this will change depending upon your personal circumstances and also timing. As we know, real estate is fluid, it's dynamic, and it's ever changing. And the information that I provide today, while it's considered evergreen and generally accurate and up to date, things do change. But again, working with a trusted realtor colleague and friend will help you throughout the entire home buying process. Let's start with do's. How to get prepared. You'll want to check your credit and definitely address any credit issues you may have very early on in the process. Do you have any late payments? Do you have any accounts in collections? Any judgments against you? These are all things that you'll need to address and attend to when you begin the home buying process. And I want to make something really clear. Having a mark on your credit does not disqualify you necessarily from qualifying for a mortgage or another type of financial product to get you into a home. So don't assume that because there's a blemish or maybe multiple blemishes that home buying is not for you. There are products that exist for people who have had maybe a short to longer time with some challenges financially. You'll want to set a realistic budget and consider all of the costs in your home purchase, not just your mortgage. You'll want to consider your mortgage, the principal payment, the interest, and the interest rate. You'll want to consider taxes and also insurance. As we know, especially when it comes to homeowners insurance, that cost is not generally getting less expensive. So you'll want to make sure that you have enough money, usually cash, to pay for all of those things and leave yourself a little bit of wiggle room just in case there's an emergency or some unexpected expense. You'll definitely also want to get pre-approved before starting to look for homes. Now, let's talk for a moment about pre-approval versus pre-qualification. Those two terms are used interchangeably sometimes, but they're actually a little bit different. Pre-qualification generally means you reached out to a lender, they've told you over the phone or perhaps via email, or if you've used an online tool, okay, you'll generally qualify for X amount, and they may even quote a preliminary interest rate. Pre-qualification is for some people the first step in qualifying for a mortgage product. But for many people who are really ready to buy and put in an offer, you'll want that pre-approval. Pre-approval goes a few steps further. It'll look at your income. You'll have to provide, in many cases, a lot of documentation to a prospective lender to get that pre-approval letter. And remember, a pre-approval letter is what some realtors will require before you even begin working with them. That way, they know if you have a lender in mind, and they'll also have an idea about the type of home you may qualify for. Depending upon the lending product, there might be limitations with respect to where you can purchase the home, definitely how much you can purchase the home for, and there may be other contingencies in that loan product that your realtor needs to know about. So a lot of that, again, comes with a pre-approval letter and not just a pre-qualification letter. Let's talk about a couple of things that you don't want to do as you're getting prepared. Naturally, if you're searching for a mortgage product, your credit is going to be really important. You're not going to want to necessarily open any new credit cards or begin any new lines of credit. If you do make a large purchase and you're using cash, it won't necessarily affect you other than having less liquid funds. But you'll not want to put those large purchases on a credit card or extend any credit at that time while you're either in the process of getting a pre-approval and certainly when you're in the process of having your mortgage finalized. And another don't necessarily assume that you'll want to use all of the money that you're pre-approved for by a lender. There are always, again, emergencies, unexpected expenses, and if you max yourself out, that may be detrimental. So just a few things to keep in mind as you're getting prepared. Let's talk about now section 2, house hunting and choosing the right home. That's always exciting. Many people start their home search online, looking at a lot of those websites that I won't mention here, but that we're all familiar with. Looking at homes in certain neighborhoods with certain features and amenities, that's always exciting. And starting that search usually will begin at home or on your phone or on your laptop, or maybe even sometimes talking with friends and family that really love where they live, and that might convince you to look in that area too. Let's talk about some do's. So what you'll want to do is start making a list of needs versus wants, meaning, do you need the home to have a certain number of bedrooms? Do you need the home to have a certain number of bathrooms? What about its distance from your work or distance from schools? Things to keep in mind, what you need versus what you want. Now, wants, that could be certain amenities. Do you want it to have a pool? Do you want it to have a chef's kitchen? Do you want it to have a shed in the back? All things that you may want, but not necessarily need. Making a list is a really good way to keep track of that. Something else you'll want to do, and this again can be done with the help of a realtor. All of these steps can, but particularly knowing the neighborhood that you're thinking about purchasing a home in. Researching the schools, researching amenities of the neighborhood. Where are the schools? Where are the shops? Pharmacy? Where are the police stations, fire stations? All of the things that it takes to make a place a nice place to live. Those amenities are definitely going to be top of mind. And I mentioned it previously, think about the commute. Is this going to be a really long trip to work or a short trip? If you're fortunate enough to work from home, the commute may not matter to you as much. In that case, you may want a home that has a home office, for example, an amenity that might matter to you, something you need, and perhaps something you might just want. And again, always work with a trusted realtor who can really help you with neighborhood market reports, in addition to neighborhood amenity reports. We at Allen Tate have a lot of information that we can provide to you. And at the end of this presentation, I'll make an offer to you. What you may not want to do or don't let your emotions override your budget throughout this process. It's really emotional purchasing a home, especially a first home. You'll want to keep that in check to the extent possible. Don't get enamored and carried away to the extent that you can prevent it with a home that really is at the top of your budget or exceeds your budget. That's just a setup for heartbreak in a lot of cases. You'll probably want to search for a home that's going to be comfortable for you with respect to your obligations. Again, keep in mind, you'll have to pay your mortgage, the mortgage interest, taxes, property taxes, and insurance on that property, among a host of other potential expenses, especially as a first-time home buyer. What else you'll want to do and not forget to do, don't skip touring your prospective neighborhood. And what I mean by that is more than just attending an open house or walking through the home with a realtor. Check out the house that you're most interested in or the houses that you're most interested in at different times of the day. If you can, go in the morning, go in the afternoon, go in the evening, go during the weekday, go during the weekend. Really give yourself a lot of opportunities to see what that neighborhood and what that home is like throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the day. You may be surprised. Let's go to section 3. What happens when you find your dream home or your dream home for right now? Making an offer and what happens next is what we'll talk about now. So what you'll want to do, you'll want to work with your realtor to truly understand what it takes to make an offer. Up to this point, you've searched for a home, you've started online perhaps, you've actually gotten a list of recommendations from your realtor, you already have your pre-approval letter, because remember, without the pre-approval, it's like going shopping without your wallet. So you've done all of that footwork, legwork, and now it's time. You found the house, you're ready to put in an offer. With your realtor, they'll go through the offer to purchase contract with you so that you really understand all of the terms and the conditions. For example, earnest money. Sometimes that's abbreviated EM. That's a certain amount of money that you decide to provide to the seller, stating that you are, in fact, a serious buyer. If the deal goes through, great. That amount is credited towards your closing. And in certain circumstances, if you're not able to make good on the contract or something falls through, you may actually, in some cases, forego that earnest money. But your realtor will help you to understand what that means in more detail. Another thing to consider are contingencies, meaning, are there certain things that you're going to ask for in your offer? Meaning, will the seller have to make some repairs? Will the seller assist you with down payment? Closing costs? Are there any inspections that you're going to forego? Appraisal contingencies? There's a very long list, and your realtor will help you work through all of those details and make sure that you're comfortable with the understanding of what those things mean and make sure that they meet your personal needs and circumstances. I also want to tell you something to be very aware of. You do want to be sure that in a competitive market, you are ready to go, meaning if there are a lot of buyers competing against you for the same home, or let's say multiple homes, you'll want to be sure that with that pre-approval and with that realtor, the offer that you're prepared to make, you can follow through on. So in competitive markets, You want to be ready to move quickly. And something else you'll want to do, you'll want to schedule those home inspections as early on as possible in the due diligence period. So once that offer is in, the clock starts ticking. Usually, your realtor in the offer to purchase contract may indicate that anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 weeks, and in some cases even more, you as the buyer will have the right to go through and inspect the home, check every nook, check every cranny to really make sure that the house is in the condition that you need it to be in order to move in. You'll want to make sure to schedule that home inspection as soon as possible, and your realtor will most likely do that for you, the home inspection and any other inspections that may be necessary. And when you receive those results with your realtor and certainly independently, you'll want to review the results of that home inspection very carefully to make sure you truly understand what is right with the home and what may not be as right with the home. What you'll not want to do after you place the offer, don't skip reading any of the terms and conditions when you are in the process of making the offer and after you've made the offer. Really understand what those terms and conditions are. Really understand what your contract is saying. And you'll also not want to waive any contingencies without fully understanding the risk. Again, that's something your realtor will help you with. You may decide to have an appraisal contingency, which simply means that if your house is appraised at a value by an appraiser that's less than your offer, are you still willing to go through with the purchase? Or does your loan product in some cases prevent you from going through with the purchase? Again, that type of contingency happens all the time, and it's something that you and your realtor will want to discuss. Let's move to the last section, section 4, final steps to closing. This is when it gets super exciting and maybe for some a little nerve-wracking. So up to this point, you've done so much work and now your offer has been accepted. That's great. Well, what happens between the time your offer is accepted, between the time you're preparing to perform the inspections and your due diligence to closing? Well, there's a lot of waiting time. You may, in some cases, have to provide additional documentation. You'll have to, in some cases, meet with a lender, provide explanations. Paperwork, paperwork, paperwork. That really doesn't end. But don't worry, it's not forever. It's temporary. So what you'll want to do to that point, stay in close contact with your realtor always, who really should be your partner and guide you through the process. The realtor will also work with your lender, and you too may choose to stay in close contact with your lender to make sure that you are 100% approved and what we like to call clear to close. You'll also want to, a few days before the closing, review the closing disclosure. We abbreviate that CD very carefully. You'll usually receive the CD at least 3 days before your closing date. This will outline line by line, item by item, all of the costs and expenses that will either be due before or during closing, and also any credits that may be issued to you. It really lays out all of the financial points of this transaction. Last but not least, one thing you'll want to do, you'll want to prepare for your moving day. Again, really exciting and maybe a little stressful. Maybe your realtor will give you some boxes or shrink wrap to help you with the process. You'll also want to, in addition to preparing for your move, you'll want to be sure that your utilities are set up. So whether you're on public, water, or sewer, you'll want to make sure your electric utilities are set up, that your water's turned on, that anything in your home that you need to be comfortable is ready to go. What you won't want to do in step 4, final steps to closing, don't change your job. And try not to change any financial circumstances. So losing a job, it's unfortunate. It does happen sometimes before closing. Work with your lender and see what can be done if that ends up being your circumstance. Unfortunately, again, it does happen. but try not to change jobs. If you do keep the same job and receive a raise, that's also good news that you'll want to share with your lender. Try not to make any major credit purchases that could affect your underwriting. The other thing that you won't want to do, don't forget to ask your realtor questions. There are no dumb questions during this process. I don't even like to use that word. It's really going to be a collaborative effort between you and your realtor to get you to the closing table, to get you clear to close, and to get you the keys that you need and that you want and that you aim to have for your first home. Overall, it's a really exciting process. It can actually move really fast in some cases. Underwriting doesn't necessarily take a very long time, especially if you have an excellent loan partner. And there are many out there. Above all, stay positive, keep in touch with your realtor, keep in touch with your mortgage loan officer and lending professional, and never be afraid to ask questions. We're all here to support you on the journey. In most cases, we've been through that too, at least once, in many cases, many more times. And we're here as guides, guides that will help you from just having a dream to having your very first and hopefully many more doorsteps. I'd like to say thank you for listening. I'm happy to be of service. Again, my name is Christina Horsford with Tate Realtors. It's an absolute pleasure to speak with you today. And if you'd like, please get in touch with me and I'd be happy to send you a home buyer's guide that's designed especially for you and will lay out all the steps that you need to take to get you from dream to doorstep. Have a great day and happy house hunting.